goodness. Da 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 da. What's my good chair? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. Let people know I've gone live. And if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And this is my second live show. My first live show I do once a week, and that one is my Chatters Live. I call it Chatters Live because the people who hang out with me on Sunday nights chat more than I do. I have the greatest crew over on that live show. And if you ever want to join us on Sunday nights, I do that live show at 7:30 p.m. consistently every single week, except in September. September, I take off as a little bit of a regroup for myself. I go into it deep. And it's not saying that what I'm doing is torture or I hate it. It's absolutely the hardest work ever. And again, not to say it isn't hard work, because it is hard work, but it's work that I enjoy doing. And in my conversations today that I was sitting in on, not in yapping myself, I leave my live shows for that, but sitting in as a spectator and as a student. I searched out a little bit of information on myself because I come from a very dynamic family, a family of narcissists and empaths and borderlines and beautiful humans and right, all kinds. And I grew up really confused, not knowing anything about archetypes. I didn't learn anything about archetypes until well into my 50s, right? I'm 60. I'm going to be 65 this year, but I have been treading water ever since I woke up to some of these ideas. And I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of resolving and forgiving not just others, but forgiving myself for waking up so late, not recognizing where I got things wrong, though sometimes I did, right? And tripping over myself in my process as I'm taking in those lessons, as I'm sitting in on those conversations and knowing better and still messing up. I'm going to use a little bit of an example today because I was kind of thinking, what would we talk about, because coming from a dynamic family, I didn't know exactly where I sat in those dynamics because I picked up traits from all members of my family. I've come to recognize, it is in that calming my system by making sure everybody else's system is calm. And I did a lot of that, I believe it is my nature to be very empathic, to be very soft. But growing up and being around these dynamics, I picked things up. And when we talk about shadow work, it's not just about understanding, our archetype, but understanding all those little things that we picked up. And we have to wash those off of ourselves. We have to wake up and take a look around ourselves and go, oh my goodness, what did I step into? Possibly, what did I agree to? Right? Because I truly believe for myself that I probably made a lot of agreements and a lot of decisions in that loyalty that was just second nature. And not only second nature, it was instilled in my family, right? And probably instilled in my family going back generations and generations. But as we introduce new bloodlines, right? My mother and my father were total opposites from each other. My mother was a narcissistic borderline. My father probably was very headstrong in his own right, but he was so sensitive and so empathic and in feeling my way around, right? In remember what I said. I came into the world and right away I had to protect myself. Even as a small child, I had to protect myself because I didn't feel that there was anybody around me truly protecting me. I really felt like I was swimming in an ocean and it was sink or swim. I'm very grateful, though, that I always had people, even if it's just one person, my entire life who loved me. And that is a truth. So it doesn't mean that just because somebody loved me, that they were going to watch over me consistently, right? When they were around, they would watch out for me the best that I could. My father was so sensitive. I am my father's daughter. So, as much as I was trying to keep everybody calm and right, making sure that everything was going well, my father was doing double duty in that too. And he did the very best that he could, but sometimes our best is not enough. And sometimes in trying to do our best, right, in that trying to keep everything calm, in meeting other people's needs, as well as trying to watch out for our own needs, that we pick things up, right? And they do have to be cleaned up. Hello, Eugene. You're first in tonight. So nice that you popped in to hang out with me. I really appreciate that. We were just talking about how I messed up. We weren't talking about it yet. I said I was going to talk about it, but I keep going backwards. But it isn't that idea of going 2 steps forwards and then 3 steps back and then right 3 steps forward and 1 step back until finally you can take 3 steps forward and just keep those 3 steps forward, right? So in those dynamic traits that I picked up along the way is I had two members, like, two extremes. My mother was very firm and strong-handed in the upbringing of her kids, too strong-handed. But she was in survival mode too, and not giving any excuses to say, right, that you got to just forgive that and let that go. Because when you do that, you're just letting these people go off and do that to somebody else if you're not in the picture, right? And if you're hanging out with me, if you found me along the way, I'm sure that in some respect you are very sensitive yourself, right? That you have these sensitivities that you don't really get. But at the same time, like I said, you probably got other traits that you picked up along the way. And it's confusing when you're trying to find out who you are, where you sit amongst your network, within your friends, within your own family, recognizing that you are so different from everybody in your family, but at the same time, everybody is so different than you too, right? Today I was going to give some tips on, how to move in life as an empath. But then when I was thinking about it, I thought it would be better to talk a little bit about these traits that we pick up along the way. And we don't pick them up along the way because we're bad people. It's because we read people. It's because we feel people out for our own safety, and also sometimes for the safety of the people that we care about. For myself, my dad was a commercial fisherman. He loved his kids, he loved his family, right? That, but he wasn't always around. He was gone for months at a time, numerous times a year, and I was left to my own demise. And because of my role that I didn't choose, right? I didn't choose my archetype, which was, right, scapegoat. I learned to pick up things, some of them that served me well, some of them that served and were the right thing, but in the end, it I paid for that in being maybe a truth teller, in opening up my mouth when I should have known to zip it, right? To point out the things that weren't right, like, wow, how come I get in trouble for this? And right, my sister Tracy is doing the exact same thing, even worse, and she's like, right, they're not even saying anything about it. Or when I was doing things bad and it was ignored, it wasn't punished in any way, and I always thought that was really odd. Right. And then some of us lied in the family, right? My one of my sisters was a compulsive liar, but my mother was also a compulsive liar over the silliest things, right? There was no need for the lying in that, and yet it was done anyway. And so that's the kind of the story that I want to pick up, right? I picked that up, not consistently like my sister and my mother did, but to save my butt sometimes I would come up with stories, right? Because I knew if I didn't come up with something, right, there was all hell to pay for. So again, in saving my own butt in that, I would on occasion uh fib. I would lie. My dad too. He was the most sweetest. He hated lying, and he didn't put up with lying in the family at all. And that's how come I didn't become a liar, because I loved my father so much. I felt his love for me, his caring for me, and that connection that we had that was super special. So I didn't want to disappoint him. That hurt me lots too, growing up and as an adult, and that could be a story for another day, in disappointing the people that you care about. But my dad would tell white lies, right? He would hang over the fence at the house, and he would chat the little old ladies up like they were the most beautiful, fascinating women in the entire world. You know, women would come along and just the most funkiest outfits with hair out to here and bad acne, and he would make them feel like princesses, queens. And he did that specifically to make them feel good. And they were lies. They were blatant lies. I would just be looking at him, going, like, what are you talking, being the truth teller? What are you talking about, Dad? Right after he finished talking, I would never do it in front of what he was doing because I didn't want to disrespect somebody else, right? But I knew my dad was lying, but they were always little white lies. He did omit too, like omit things. So if you wanted to know the truth and he didn't want to tell you the truth, he would dance around subjects. And that's how I picked that up, right? In avoiding in my own safety to make sure that I stayed safe. I learned to dance around subjects and learn not to lie, but at the same time, not to cough it up, changing the subjects. And right, I come from a dynamic family. So let's come to the present. Okay. Uh, the other day, I had this meditation headset that I picked up for $15 at the thrift store. And I listed it for $70. It took 24 hours and I sold it. I was so happy. The gentleman came, we had a little talk on spirituality and meditation, right? Because it's a meditation headset, so I knew he was cool with that. And every time we communicated, he's giving me these emojis, these, when they're praying, the praying hand emojis, and they're giving me those, right? So I knew that he was practicing mindset at the very least, right? And obviously, if he's buying a meditation headset with like birds and ocean sounds and stuff, that right, that it would be expected that he was a meditator himself. So I was comfortable in having a small conversation with him. Let me have a sip of my coffee. My coffee cup tonight is the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. Little thumbnail, just in case I decide to use that as a thumbnail. Um, so he came by and he picked up the headset. We had a little conversation. He gave me $70, and I thought, perfect. But in that conversation, he asked me about it, and I says, well, all I did I said, my sister bought it for me. And even saying it right now, my whole body is just cringing in saying that, right? Because it's not a little white lie. It's an actual lie that I told. I says, well, it was a re-gift. My sister bought it for me. I opened it up, but I just charged it to make sure that it worked. It'd been sitting in my cupboard for over a year. Mind you, I'd only bought it like 24 hours beforehand, right? And we had that short little interaction, which was absolutely lovely. It was a great conversation. And he handed me my money, and I came up to the apartment, and then I went grocery shopping, or I can't remember what I did with the money, but I went and spent the money anyway, right? The next day, he messaged me back. He said, did you try this headset out? I can't get this thing to work. I said, well, did you download the app? I says, I'm not very technically inclined. I says, did you download the app? I says, if it doesn't work out, just right, because now the guilt is coming up with me, because I knew right away when he said, did you test it out? Right away, I thought, oh my goodness, I lied. And this is karma for me lying, right? Because it was a blatant lie that I told. I'm the worst liar ever, right? The worst lie. And every time I tell a little fib, something like this happens to me. So I said, oh, I just messaged him back, went, oh my goodness. I says, I don't know what happened. I'm not technically inclined. All I did was charge it to make sure that it charged. It was brand new. And I lied again, right? Covering my butt. It is in that safety that we do these things. That's not a little white lie. A little white lie is to make somebody feel better, to make somebody feel good, right? And I knew right away it was karma. I says, this reselling, I can't expand on my stories. If you go into my site, my marketplace site, you can obviously tell I'm a reseller. I'm buying things inexpensively and I'm selling them for more money. That's what I'm doing, right? I do sell things that are mine. I do, but I'm doing it to clean out my house, to downsize, because I can't take my doodads with me when I hit the road, right? When I do my RV life, like this stuff cannot be bouncing around in the back of my motorhome. That's just not going to work, right? There might be a few things that I might pack up and leave with my sister until one day I can pick them up again. But I believe that once I'm on the road, I'm gonna be on the road to the very last day, right? They're gonna find my camper van all rusted out in the bush somewheres 40 years later. And I'm gonna be sitting in a chair, right? But anyway, I knew it was karma for lying, right? I knew right away because I don't like to lie, right? I'm not good at it. And even if I thought that I wouldn't get caught, I just don't it's just not my nature. It's like how you guys will very rarely hear me swear. Like so rarely. You get maybe the word damn out of me, right? And if I am going to swear, I'll probably spell it out. I won't say the words out loud, maybe in my head, but I won't say them out loud because it's not part of my nature. And if I did, I would shock myself. And you guys all just see the shock on my face from swearing. You would know that I knew that I said a swear word, right? And I would probably blabber and right ask for forgiveness and kind of that's just the way I am. But that lying to that gentleman, and he was a very nice man, and we had a lovely conversation, and there was no reason for me to he didn't even ask for a story on it, right? He didn't even ask for a story on it, but I gave him a story on the headset anyway, right? And I paid for that. So I messaged him back. I said, I'm so sorry. I says, if it doesn't work, plug it in, download the app. If you can't figure it out, message me back and I'd be very for sure give you your money back, right? And I just assumed because he was an older gentleman too that he wasn't technically inclined. Earl, hello, Earl. I can't say that, Earl, right? Can't say that because it can't. It's I don't lie, right? I I care for people. I love the people who come and hang out with me. But right, you say women love you, right? You're looking for a different kind of love. I appreciate you lots, Earl. I really, really do. But I don't see you, and I'm in that physical interaction with the people that I truly love, and they are few and far between. They are few and far between for sure. Okay, to get back to my story, I blatantly lied, right? I lied to this gentleman, and that cost me the headset because I was embarrassed. I said, just throw the headset away. If it doesn't work, just headset it away, message me, throw it away, and I'll just e-transfer you your money back. And I had to go into my bank account to make sure there was enough money in my bank account for that. I've been on a bit of a spending spree in the past couple of weeks now. I'm all done with that now, right? No choice, but I'm done with that now. But I did really, really well with that money that I got. And, I haven't got my glasses yet, but I suspect that my glasses will be in this week sometime. So I'll be getting new glasses and you guys won't have what do you call those? Dragon, no, what do they call them? Fly eyes. I won't have the fly eyes, right? Or the laser eyes or the Morse code, Morse code eyes, right? But to get back to my story, I knew that I lied and I ended up having to pay that money back specifically because I just lied. It wasn't a little white lie, it was one of those lies that I learned to do. right? Because that came from the dynamic family that I grew up in. And so when I chose this cup specifically, right? The darkest nights produce the brightest stars. You guys know that I do shadow work, and it's to understand some of these aspects of myself that I picked up along the way. That pollution, right? That pollution, those parts of me that are not really a part of me, but I picked them up and I utilized them because they worked for my sister, they worked for my mom, and I'm in a sticky situation that, right, that I feel I need to explain or I need to get out of. And so I just lied and I paid for that, right? And so that's what shadow work is. Into going back and not just looking at the things you got wrong, but you have to look at the things you got right, in being the truth teller, even though it was painful for me, right? I'd always get grounded or right or yelled at, or it was the 60s and 70s. It was quite on the norm to smack your kids around, right? And again, I'm not saying that that's excusable because we can't hit our kids, because when you hit your kids, this is what happens, right? You create impasse and you create borderlines and you create narcissists. And we live in a world now where lots of families are dynamic and they're not true narcissists. You heard that term, failed narcissists, right? As if somebody is proud to be a narcissist. Maybe the narcissist thinks that that's something to be proud of, but really they feel really bad when they fail in being a narcissist. And that's a beautiful thing. Failed narcissists and broken empaths are the next stage of evolution because they are the offsprings, they are the hybrids, they are the mulatto children of the extremes, right? The borderlines are the ones that pick up, right? And they can't handle their negatives. And so they push those negatives on the people around them. So the empaths have to carry the weight of the brokenness, right? And also the narcissists are brought up to support the borderlines, to make sure that the borderlines, right, don't have lots of chores to do, that they have a husband that makes lots of money, right, that they can have the life that they want to live. But the thing is, when you get those kind of dynamics together, it is screwy. Like it's screwy, and you don't get that fairy tale life. You don't. And everybody suffers in that. It's the worst thing ever. Borderlines and narcissists getting together and having children, because those children are our future, right? They're the next generation. They are the ones that are going to blaze the trails, and they're the ones that are ablaze, like, right? Because again, broken impasse, they're not even right. And this is shadow work, is to help us heal in that, to become healed empaths, right? And then while the narcissists, they can do that work, but they really have to be willing in that because they've been truly trained, right? It's been so brutal on them. The only way that they can move in the world is don't mess with me, right? I know better than you. Do as I say, not as I do. What are you talking about? And never even learn to apologize. So they would not have even been able to do that little lie that I did, right? In saying, I'm so sorry, because narcissists don't know how to say, well, they know how to say sorry, but they're so, right? If they're broken are broken narcissists, or failed narcissists, at the very least, they're not going to admit that, because they don't want to show weakness. They don't want to share or show their softness. And it's so important for us to stay soft, right? And, those that are not willing to, at the very least, be soft with themselves, to be soft within, to at very least to understand, right? To do the shadow work for themselves. They might still express that hardened exterior to the world out there, but for the least themselves, you can't lie. You can't lie to yourself. And it's important for me, especially, right? I don't want to be in those situations. I don't want to be called out. I don't want my fibs to be seen, right? And the only way that they can't be seen, because it shows right over my face when I tell a lie. And of course, that karma comes at me right away. And I couldn't afford to give that $70 back, but I had to in good faith, because it would be even worse karma for me if I said, ha ha, ha, too bad for you. I got your money. See you on the beach. And he was such a nice guy too. He was such a nice guy too. So that was on me, but it was beautiful that I recognized right away why that happened, right? You could say, well, that was just fluky. It just happened. It was broken. That just happened, right? Possibly, possibly. But I know for myself that when I tell fibs, when I'm not straight up, if I'm not it's why I come in here and just, right? I dance around the bush sometimes, because some of the topics are heavy and I'm trying to spit it out, right? I'm trying to spit it out. But I have to. I have to do that, because this is what I bring to the table. I have to be the examples for others, right? I need a Japanese girlfriend that would spend money on you. Oh my goodness, Earl. But oh yeah, so you just got something just got reviewed there. I'll go in and check in on it later. But yeah, I have to say that that was on me in that experience that I had with that gentleman. And it's not my nature to be a fibber and a liar, and it backfires me like a firecracker every single time that I do it. But that's the idea. That's why I get those lessons, why I get that karma. So eventually I will learn for myself not to do it, right? It's why, right? I don't tell those fibs, but I do beautify, right? In order to make things sound grander, because I'm a reseller. I'm trying to sell stuff, but I have to remember there is a difference between influence and manipulation. And even though he didn't even ask for a story, I gave him a story on it anyway, right? I was doing with it. I was closing the deal because I needed that $70. I closed the deal on it, but I paid for that. I paid doing that. So it was a big lesson for me in moving forward as a reseller, to be honest, because my reputation means everything to me. If I'm not truthful, if I'm not genuine in what I bring to the table, whether it's here or in my personal life, what kind of example am I going to be to anybody, right? and especially be that example for myself, right? Be that example for myself. But I was pretty pleased that I recognized right away. I went did a little shadow work. I knew right away it was just something that I had to wash out of my life and say, okay, that's it with that. That doesn't serve me well. That was kind of embarrassing. We don't want to do that again. And you can pretty much guarantee I won't be doing that again. Just say I'm a reseller. And that's all I have to say to them. That's how I picked it up somewheres. Do that little dance around the bush, right? Not tell the truth. At least that's not lying. And you guys know if I hang out here and I start dancing around the bush on the subjects and on the topics that I'm talking about, you guys are going to recognize right away. Ooh, there's something else, something she's not saying. But that might be a good thing because if you're a contemplator, if you pick up on these things, right, that you might munch on it because it's what I did. It's the first thing that I woke up to is just somebody trying to avoid giving me an answer. And I'm going, oh, that's odd. He wants to say more, or he should have said more, or I can see that there's something more to this than what he's saying. And then I'll go, ooh, what is that? And then I'll delve into it deeper and I'll go deeper into the conversations and right. And I will pick up on it and I will know it right away. But that's an empathic trait, isn't it? And it's a tool we picked up along the way. And I say, it serves us as much as we picked up some crappy things because of the people that we surround ourselves with, right? We've surrounded ourselves with good people too, right? And like Earl was talking a little bit, in my relationships, I have always chosen men like myself. My sister, who is narcissistic traits, right? Um, she had to have somebody stronger because right, she would be absolutely controlling in that relationship, which she was. But every woman wants somebody stronger than them, right? More right, reliable, the man of the house, king of the castle, right? But still have that sensitivity about them. And my sister, right, she got hooked good with a king of kings when it comes to narcissism, and he almost took her out. And I am so grateful that somehow she found her way out of that relationship. Doesn't mean she's not going to get hooked again by somebody even stronger in narcissism, because he did have some beautiful traits. He was a Christian. He loved Jesus for sure, but oh, he was so bad, right? He was so demeaning and knowing all and lectures, and yeah, it was pretty bad. And we used to joke that he held all of us sisters hostages, like his own little harem, right? He had my sister as his wife, but then he had all of us kind of supporting him in his kingdom. And eventually my entire family, I was the very last one to leave them, because that was my sister Tracy. She was my best friend. I wasn't going to leave her behind, but in the end I didn't have any choice because I'd already been in the lessons and I could not be around that any longer. It was just absolutely just awful. And eventually I left. And I know if I hadn't left, I would have stayed there and I would have been her support system. I would have been her punching bag. I would have held all that pain and all that frustration for her because I loved her so much. And it was too much for me, but I would have done that and she would have never left him, right? and they would have still been together. Actually, she probably would have died for sure. No question in my mind. She would have died, right? So I am grateful that eventually it took a long time. Like I said, I was the last one to leave um, that scenario. All my sisters, all my brother-in-laws, we were all gone. Even all her friends all left that situation, wouldn't come to the house and visit or anything. They couldn't. Everybody left her, and she was left by herself, but somehow she found the strength to leave that relationship. And I think she literally saved her own life in that. And that was a lesson for her. That was a little bit of hand washing for her. Maybe she's a failed narcissist. And that's a beautiful thing, right? Because that shows that I always knew she had some softness in her. I always knew that, right? But I don't think she realized it. And I really got a good recognition when she made herself that priority in her own life. That was, well, I wasn't going to say the hardest thing she ever did because she had a triple heart bypass. She crashed pretty hard in that. They call it mortification, and she went through it. She went through the ringer for sure. But I am optimistic she is coming out of it. I'm always staying optimistic because if I came out of it, right, anybody in my family could come out of it, could heal themselves with a little bit of that shadow work, right? The darkest nights produce the brightest stars. I believe that. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Okay, let's just grab a card. I'll come into the comments here for a second. But dear, I am the official catch of the year. I'm getting a quote for my exterior house trim in the morning. Oh, okay. Getting some repairs or renovations done. Kathy Long is a super in the movie Stranger. Never heard of the movie. It's actually normal for me to talk to myself. Is it, Earl, that you talk? It's important. I didn't realize how important it is to vocally talk to. I talk to myself in here like all day long, right? And I thought it was a bad trait, but I think for my nature, being the intellectual that I am, I never thought I was. I always thought I was brought up to believe that I was, right? I was a dummy, that I didn't have any noodles, I didn't have any smarts. And then as you move forward and as my interests and doing a little bit of shadow work and stuff, and I go, oh my goodness, I just love what I'm doing. Yes, it's hard. But the hard in that is recognizing the hurt that we've done to ourselves and the hurt that we've done to others and the situations and the life that we could have created or did create for our ourselves, right, has put us in a situation that could have left me as a, this is the L, right? My entire life, I might not have woken up to any of these ideas. But we wake up when we wake up, don't we? And we don't really have much choice except to follow in what comes across our path. And I'm so grateful for the lessons that have come across my path. Okay, you guys, let's just grab a card. 54 powerful words here. Maybe it'll be pertinent to the conversation we had tonight. But yeah, it's life is so much easier when you don't lie. I can tell you that for a truth. Like I said, I very rarely lie, but I don't lie because of that backtracking, that right. I don't want to be that person to just come in because I'm such a yapper, because I come in and I share and I tell stories and I work in emotions, and It's building up that trust. I don't want to go backwards in the conversations because it's a lot of this is in repeat because you never know somebody new's going to come in and haven't heard these conversations before, and in that repeat you don't want to cross reference. You don't want to have a little bit of a stall and people see that you're backtracking to cover your tracks. I want to be able to just come in and rehash what I understand to be true and not even worry about, right? Oh, did I say this? Right? This last time I better not say that, or right? And it becomes covering your tracks. It's a horrible feeling that you always have to second guess yourself when you're lying. And that's why I try really hard not to lie, because then it takes that weight off of me. Then I can just come in and I can blubber blabber. And it's not like I don't put my foot in my mouth sometimes. I most definitely do, not with intent, right? But in the moment, it's always a truth. It's always something I understand as a truth. Hello, Tammy. How are you doing tonight? You caught me just as I was about to grab a card, and we were talking about lying, right? So tonight was a conversation about lying. Yeah, and that's how important it is, right? It makes life so much easier. Life is so difficult, when you lie, and especially when things aren't going good in your life and you lie, right? When somebody asks you about it, they could be the answer. They could be the solution for you. But because you go, oh, everything's fine, everything's great, I'm on top of things. And they go, oh, okay, they're on top of things. They don't need my help. But maybe they were the answer, right? And sometimes because, right, we don't want to seem like we're weak because we have these controlling and narcissistic traits about ourselves. We don't want people to think that we're weak, right? So we do lies, right? And that's a sad thing because people have to know when we need help, when there's something that's not going on in our lives that's working properly, like, right, in anything. That lying is a terrible thing. There's nothing worse than covering up lies. And being a truth teller that I am, you could tell that probably got me in a lot of trouble, having a sister and a mother that lied compulsively all the time, right? So I would be truth telling. Oh, but you said this yesterday. Oh, that's not true. I didn't do that. What are you talking? Right? And right, and then having that attention revert from the liar to somebody who's actually just telling the truth, right? The liar always has the backup, always has, I second that, right? I'm the witness. I saw it, right? So and so's telling the truth. Cindy's lying. I'm just like, okay, it's better just go. But that's the plan. That's what they want, right? That's what they want. So that's what I'm saying. I'm kind of proud of myself, even though it was painful in being a truth teller. I'm glad I did it anyways, because I can sit right here right now and jibber jabber. I have to come back to my lives and watch my live again because I have no idea, right? It's in just going in that flow and just letting it flow. But that's a beautiful thing, because if you're a liar, you just can't let it flow. It doesn't flow. You'll be using the cheat sheets, right? Yeah, these I was going to do the topic on tips for empaths tonight, right? Because I have lots of great tips that would be very beneficial, help people move along in their lives a little bit better. But I think tonight was a good one, because in my experience, right? And a part of paying back a little bit of that karma in what I did in telling that gentleman that it was a regift for my sister, and that I just plugged it in just to make sure that it charged properly when all actuality it wasn't a re-gift. It was something I'd picked up at the thrift store for $15 and sold for 70. And then I had to pay the $70 back. And there's no point in having the headset, right, if it didn't work. And he wasn't the type to be a fibber himself. I knew that. I catch on these things really well, so I just told him to throw it away. Okay, you guys, here we go. Willingness, you guys. Willingness is faith over doubt, right? But you have to be willing, and that's the thing about moving forward, especially when you do have these traits, right? I was willing to come in and tell my story about lying to somebody that I was selling something to, right? I don't do it often, but you can believe I won't be doing it again. I will take note and I will zip it, right? I won't be trying to close that sale with manipulation. I will always be true. And that was a big lesson that I definitely needed. But, right, I wouldn't be saying that right now unless I was willing, right, to be course corrected in what I got wrong, right? And that's the thing. We have to be willing to be course corrected because we surround ourselves even with our own families. We live in a world now that we are mixing with all kinds, we are interacting with all kinds, you know, and so we're going to pick up traits from all kinds, and in the moment, in utilizing some of these traits, it might be beneficial in the moment, but you can guarantee if it was a no no, you're going to know it was a no no. And there'll have to be a little bit of karma, right? A little bit of course correction in that. But that's the thing about willingness, right? That's my faith. I know that to be true for myself, right? There is no doubt about that. And that's the thing about faith. And each one of us gets to make that choice. But if you're willing, right? If you're willing to be course corrected, if you're willing to have an open mind, if you're willing to be a student, if you're willing to be a spectator, if you're willing to be the experiencer in the karma and look for the lessons in what's coming back at you, right? Maybe you can build a little bit of faith for yourself, right? Willingness is faith over doubt. Okay, you guys. Okay, it has been a long and busy day. Oh, you don't have to say sorry, Tammy. I don't expect you to be here all the time. Oh, I hope you don't think that you have to be here all the time. Right? Take those days off. I know you love me, Tammy. I know you do. And I know you would hang out with me if you had a free moment. But if you got things to do, if they're more important things that you need to get done, you do them. I want you to do them, right? Because you are the priority, right? You are the priority, 100%. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.